Welcome back, my friends, to a new type of episode of Hyper Roll on Mission for Tuition. The mission remains the same. We're trying to raise money for our son's middle and high school tuition, only through views, not donations, no GoFundMe, nothing like that. So please like, comment, subscribe, do all of the things that help the YouTube algorithm so the video can get out to more people and raise more money for tuition. Now let's get started on what we're doing here. I've said over and over again not to force comps, but people keep, they keep doing it. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to take some of the meta comps that exist this season for Hyper Roll and just force them and see how they do. We're going to do 5 matches in a row and then judge them based on 2 components. One is what's the average placement. If it's less than 4, then the comp is essentially forcible because you will climb. But also important is how many first places you get versus how many last places or low finishes. As you know, when you start, a first place will get you a lot more than you'll lose from a last place. So if you have a comp where you get a lot of firsts, you're gonna climb quickly. Once you get up into the hyper tier or the higher levels, that's going to be a problem. But let's just go. We're not going to show all of everything, just parts of it, especially the augments. The best one for Yordles is going to be Second Wind because it's a healing augment. It's also very important to try and get 3 Yordles to start with. So I'm going to sell everything off and just hope I can get the 3rd Yordle, and I did. And then, because we're not going to show you every minute of every game, we'll just go over the keys. So let's talk about exactly what the comp is. Of course, it's the 6 Yordles, Ziggs, Vex, Poppy, Lulu, Corki, Gnar. But you're also bringing in Scrap. Blitzcrank will give you Scrap and Bodyguard. Irelia will give you Scrap and Striker. And Jinx will give you Scrap and Twin Shot, which will also enhance the corresponding Yordles. In a perfect world, you get Jeweled Gauntlet, Blue Buff, and Infinity Edge onto Corki, then tank items onto Poppy or Vex, and whatever leftover damage items you can onto Jinx when you get the chance. Since we're forcing, our only goal with augments is to figure out which one is going to be best for the Yordles. In this case, I go for Portable Forge, hoping for something perfect, and there's nothing exactly perfect. I could pick up the tank item and then stick it around Poppy, or the mana item and put it on Corki. Now I already have a tier, but to just have Corki be able to fire his ult over and over and over again is just too tempting, and I have to go for it. And we'll jump ahead to the final augment, and the team is doing surprisingly well. I'm in 2nd place in the health charts. I've managed to pick up a Jinx who hasn't gone into the game yet, but that means I have my scraps pretty much covered, and my Corki is doing a ton of damage as I've added the Archangel Staff. The final augment, I have a choice between the Cybernetic Shell or Backfoot. Triforce is not going to do me any good, but Backforce is the easy choice because that's where my power is coming from. At this point, with the Runin's Hurricane, I'm able to switch over to bring in Jinx and now make the team even stronger. And as we're cruising along doing really well, luck plays a factor. We had not been able to get our Irelia yet, but it gives us the opportunity to pick up a Scrap emblem so we can absolutely go to the 4th Scrap, which is key for the Yordle Scrap build. Now, none of this is coming from Gary. I asked him to stay specifically out of these matches so we can see some real results. I stack as much as I can onto Jinx to make her strong and hope it can carry me. The power of 4 Scraps with the Yordles is pretty much undeniable. Once you get up to the 4 Scraps, you're going to be getting a great shield on all your champions, and you have a ton of power, and that easily brings us into the top 4 in our first match. And as you can see from the scoreboard, this game was no walkaway. A team of Debonair Assassins with a gold VIP Talon absolutely presented a challenge, and I was pretty sure I was going to come in 2nd. But getting all my Yordles up to 3 stars and a 2-star Jinx absolutely helped and ultimately sealed the victory so that Game 1 turned into a 1st place finish. So right now, forcing Yordles, 1 game, 1 1st place. And just to give you an idea, that victory was good for 190 points. Game 2, I'm done even buying out the first board. I'm only buying Yordles because that is what I'm going to do no matter what. And also, I'm picking whatever augment is going to work best. In this case, it's going to be Phony Frontline. Now, when I pick up the Poppy, I'm going to switch out Poppies because that Sparring Glove is going to be key for making the Corky items. Also, starting with less than 3 Yordles is not optimal, so I am going to look as fast as possible in the hopes of finding a third, get myself a Corky, throw the Sparring Glove onto him because that will work with 2 of the items that I need. Jumping forward to the second augment, this build is not looking as good as last time as I'm having trouble getting Yordles. Getting the Scrap Emblem gives me some hope because at least I'll have a good chance of getting to the 4 Scrap, which as we said before is absolutely key for the shield that you need. And as you can see at this point, late into round 6, this build is in trouble because we have not gotten the third Corky we need to take him up to silver. And while we have 2 of our key items, we have not been able to finish out the blue buff yet, so mana is a slight issue for him, making our backline a little susceptible and not strong enough to take things down very quickly, and it's leading to a lot more losses than we would like. The final augment is not helpful at all. Cybernetic Shell is pretty much the only thing in this build that could possibly work. It'll give a little bit more tankiness to my champions with items, but the fact that I'm first getting my 2-star Corky this late in the match and I haven't gotten a really good mana item yet does not bode well. We were surprisingly able to cling for a few more rounds, but I was not able to pick up a 4th Scrap at all. No Irelias, no Jinxes, no luck. And even though I held on longer than I expected to, once I ran into a good group of Syndicate Arcanists, I was pretty much done for. And this one ends up going out 7th place. So as of this moment, we have 1 victory and 1 7th place finish. For game 3, it is back to the grind, and we grab a Yordle, find the healing augment, and we're good to go. Although at this moment, we only have 1 Yordle, so we're hoping we can find the other 2 that we need so that we can trigger the Yordle buff. We've got Ziggs, we need 1 more to make this work. Just 1 more little Yordle, maybe? Or maybe not. This one's gonna have to go starting without 3 Yordles. This is why I say we're forcing Yordles. That first guaranteed loss with only 2 Yordles gets us no real benefit, but a little bit of rolling and we have our 3rd Yordle and we can start getting ready to put on the Yordle items. And you will not be shocked to see that we are near the bottom of the board when the second augment comes up, but we do get a Yordle friendly augment in Thieving Rascals. That can definitely help, especially with a Yordle Scrap build. And we're only doing Yordle Scrap here. By the time we hit our 3rd augment, I've crawled my way out of the basement, but the augments are not the best. I decide to go with Sunfire board so I can just be weakening the opposing team. I've got my Corky items pretty much as good as I'm going to get them, so I decide to go with the Spear of Sojin since I'm not going to be getting a blue buff. By the end of stage 8, the team's in a surprisingly decent position. I've got Corky up to gold, I have Jinx on the team, I'm looking for Irelia to finish off the Scrap, but my champions are strong enough to withhold and carry me into the top 4. Now this is a match where I started without 3 Yordles and never would have gone Yordles in a million years, but it's now down to me and 1 other player, both of us with 6, so whoever wins this wins. I've gotten my Jinx up to 2, I ended up bringing in an Ezreal to play the 4th Scrap, and that was enough to carry it all the way to victory. They had a 3-star Irelia, but Yordles are OP when you have them at gold and then the 4 Scrap. So now we're at 2 victories and 1 7th place. The augment in game number 4 is screaming, do not go Yordles. Here's Clockwork. Or Triforce so you can get a Tryndamere. But I decide to go with Disintegrator and just try to find my 3 Yordles so that I can start making my Yordle team. Again, we're forcing it. And this one turned ugly really fast as other people made great use of their prismatic augments, but yeah, we really didn't. I go with Thrill of the Hunt as the burst healing one so that hopefully I can get things to the next level and stay alive. This one is going so poorly, but by the end of 6-3, we have not won a single fight and are in danger of being knocked out before even getting a chance to look at the 3rd augment. Luckily, Corky has now gotten to silver, which just happened before this round started. We have some decent items on him, so he is able to finish this off and at least allow us to see the 3rd augment. Under different circumstances, I would have been absolutely thrilled to see the Scrap Crest because I could possibly be taking it up to 4, but I currently only have 2, so this will give me a 3rd Scrap, which is not going to add much to the team right now. I go with the Spear of Sojin onto Corky and hope that will keep us going. Sadly, that Scrap Crest was not enough to save us. Too many other teams made excellent use of their prismatic augment, which we were sort of shut out from because we had to force Yordles. That was the rule that we started with, and so we end up going out. Mercifully, we do not get pushed into last place, but actually end up getting bumped up to 6th. So we now have a 1st, a 7th, a 1st, and a 6th. And we are now entering our final match and our first set of augments. Nothing fantastic. I decide to go with Keepers because the general rule is to clump Yordles. I'm lucky enough to get my 3 Yordles right off the bat. Again, I clear the Sparring Glove off of Poppy because that is a key item for Corky, and I know I can get more Poppies, and I get a 2-star just like that, so I'm comfortable getting rid of Poppy at that moment and then just trying to make the strongest team possible. As you can see, it's a little flipping and flopping. Heading into the 2nd augment, we're cruising in the middle of the pack, but picking up Stand United gives me a lot of confidence because the Yordle Scrap build, as I showed in a previous video, is very strong with Stand United because it ticks so many traits. The problem has been Corky, but if we look for it, we might just find it. We're still running a little behind to get to gold, but we have a chance. The Socialite Hex ends up in a pretty decent place because it allows me to put Corky in a corner, not subject to a blitz pull, but as enough to get a decent shield from the Keeper's augment that we picked up in the 1st round. We're right now lacking the mana item he needs to keep casting, but at least we're staying in it. By the time we reach our 3rd augment, things are looking much better. We're towards the top of the board, but unfortunately these augments are just not gonna help this team. Phalanx doesn't work because our team is not concentrated in the back row. Triforce isn't going to work because we don't have 3 cost carries. We go with Electra Charge as really the least offensive option, but I don't think it's going to help this team out much. Further, we have not picked up a mana item for Corky, so I'm going to go without it right now and just hope that one of the offerings down the line will fill in, give Gnar some damage items and tank Poppy a little bit more, and hope that we hang on. The NPC rounds have not given us what we need for Corky. We have not seen a tier in any of the item shops or pop off any of the NPCs, so Corky is living without a mana item. But luckily the rest of the team is making up for it, allowing us to get into the top 4. Unfortunately, we run straight into a Syndicate Sniper team, and without a mana item, Corky is not able to take down the front line fast enough for us to get into the back line. So by the time we're there, their Ash is able to finish us off. But that puts Game 5 in 3rd place. So let's go ahead and look at the scoreboard. Game 1 was 1st place. Hard to argue with that. Game 2, 7th place. Not so good. Game 3, back to 1st place. Game 4, 6th place. And as you just watched, Game 5 came in at 3rd place. Now what we do is add it all up. 1 plus 7 plus 1 plus 6 plus 3. Divide all that by 5, and that gives us what I'm going to be calling our force score of 3.6. Now since 3.6 is under 4, that means you will likely climb with this, but be warned. Early on, this is going to do really well because you're kind of feast or famine. 1st place is going to do really well, 7th place will lose some points, but not as much. As you get later and climb, 7th places are going to be much more devastating, and it's going to take multiple firsts to make up for them, so use this with caution as you get higher. Our next one will be on Innovator Clockwork. Hope you enjoyed this video. Leave suggestions below and have an absolutely awesome day.